Donald Trump claimed that he was going to drain the swamp. He was going to do away with the cozy relationship between politicians and lobbyists. However, his so-called pledge to do so is something that he completely reneged on. In fact, he has exempted senior staff members from his so-called ethics rules. Now, the ethics rules, again, have to do with people working as lobbyists and then working for the government, or anything where there could be a potential conflict of interest. Keep in mind that he is one gigantic example of a conflict of interest within our government. So it's no surprise that he would exempt senior staff members. Now, Trump's ethics pledge is aimed at cutting down on conflicts of interest, banning ex-lobbyists for 2 years from working on matters they dealt with for paying clients. But the list of people that he exempts includes ex-lobbyists who joined the administration to work on policy areas they had covered for their K Street clients. 2 comprehensive waivers give whole swaths of White House employees a waiver from this ethics pledge. So let me give you some of the more interesting examples. So Steve Bannon, President Trump's chief strategist, is the former head of conservative news outlet Breitbart. The waiver from the ethics rules would allow him to contact his former outlet. And also, news broke today that there's actually a papers trail showing that Steve Bannon has still been working with Breitbart very closely, even after the election.
Can I say it now?
Go ahead.
Of course he has. He's leaked every story to Breitbart. It's the most obvious thing in the whole wide world. So they're giving him a waiver now, but he'd been doing it with or without the waiver anyway. Look, if that was the extent of it, I actually wouldn't have a problem with it. Steve Bannon, I don't care if he talks to Breitbart, he's gonna leak to them anyway.
Right.
I don't think that's a huge ethical issue. And another one is Reince Priebus. He used to, of course, run the RNC. And now as the White House chief of staff, he often has to talk to the RNC. No problem with that either. So some of this is fine. Others, not so much.
So let me give you an example of a situation that is not okay. And I think this is especially timely considering the fact that Donald Trump has pulled out of the Paris Climate Accord. So energy lobbyist Michael Catanzaro is now working as Trump's top energy advisor.
See, that's one of my favorite ones. Because sometimes they'll make the excuse of like, no, but what he did as a lobbyist is not really relevant to his job. But he was an energy lobbyist and he's a top energy advisor to the president.
I'm sure he played no role and is never in Trump's ear about, climate change related policy or energy related policy whatsoever. Now, there was some excuse or reasoning or an attempt at reasoning in regard to this energy lobbyist. Here's what the White House had to say. It is important that you participate in covered matters, and disqualification from such matters would limit the ability of the White House office to effectively carry out its duties. This is based on his waiver, right? Which allows him to help shape policy on Clean Air Act issues and renewable fuel standard and the Clean Power Plan. Okay, so essentially, we need his expertise as an energy lobbyist to make decisions on these policies. Like they're just straight out admitting, yeah, we're letting this guy sway our decision making.
Yeah, and so understand, of course, what it means to be a lobbyist. So he used to represent the industries in energy, and they would lobby the government all the time to go in a certain direction. So against doing anything about climate change, because they didn't want their fossil fuel industry reined in or regulated at all. They just wanted to be able to make profits and socialize the costs and put it all on us. We want to keep privatize the profits and the carbon cost of our fossil fuels. We want you to pay it. I don't want to pay it. I want you to pay it. So that he was paid to put that position forward. Now he's at the White House. Now they're like, great. We don't even have to. We're inside the building, right?
There's more, that's just the beginning. Shahira Knight, who previously worked as a lobbyist for Fidelity, obtained a waiver to work as Trump's chief advisor on tax and retirement policies.
Which is exactly what Fidelity works on. But I bet she's totally neutral, and all the money that they were paid earlier as lobbyists has not affected them at all. And now they're just looking out for the American people.
I just want everyone to wake up, okay? I want everyone to realize, especially rural white Americans who thought that he was out there for your best interests. He doesn't care about you. Okay, he doesn't care about what your concerns are. He's not gonna bring back your jobs. He hasn't done anything for you so far. The only thing he's done is propose healthcare legislation that would destroy you, okay? He does not care about you. He cares about these corporate interests. He cares about this insanely corrupt political system, which he has benefited from and exploited himself. He's not looking out for you. He has deep disdain and always has had deep disdain for those living in poverty. He's been open and honest about that from the very beginning, okay? And just because he did these campaign rallies where he's showboating and pretending like he's this great guy, you guys fell for it. You fell for it. This is not me trying to belittle you or talk down to you. This is me begging you to please understand that he doesn't care about you whatsoever. I remember, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, John Iadarola and I covered a story where Donald Trump said golf should be reserved for the wealthy, right? He thinks that it is a wealthy person's sport, and those who aren't of a certain socioeconomic status should not have access to golf, right? That is elitist, okay? People trying to let you know what's going on with policy and how certain politicians aren't looking out for your best interests is not elitist. It's elitist to say that golf should be reserved for the wealthy. It's elitist to have constant meetings at your insanely luxurious resort in Florida. That's elitist.
So I covered a story during the campaign where they explained that his friends and allies explained that he respects people who have more money than him. But if you have less money than him, he doesn't respect you because he thinks you're a loser. So you think he's looking out for you? No, he views you as a loser. So he told you he was gonna drain the swamp, and he thought, well, these losers will believe it. I can shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and they'll still support me. I'll tell them I'm gonna drain the swamp, and then I'll fill my White House full of lobbyists who will rob everybody blind, and they'll still believe me. I'm gonna give you two last examples. Andrew Olmham is a former financial service lobbyist for Venable, who's now able to work directly on economic policies as the #2 on the White House National Economic Council.
And I'm sure they're gonna look out for the best interests of rural white Americans.
Yeah.
That's genuinely what they wanna do.
So the global financial elite, he put it in his ads. He told you he was gonna look out for you and to make sure that he kept those guys in check. Instead, he's like, come on in, man. The great American robbery has begun. He's got 5 Goldman Sachs guys in his cabinet and among his top advisors. And here are 2 financial lobbyists that we just told you about in this. He pretended that he was gonna make them, that he was gonna have ethics rules that wouldn't allow them in the White House. Now he just gave them dozens of waivers so they could all come in. And the last one is Kellyanne Conway. So she was a GOP pollster, worked with a lot of other groups, and she technically could not talk to them because of Donald Trump's ethics rules, right? And so now she can. Well, okay, you say something, she represented the National Rifle Association. I think the White House should probably talk to the NRA. Now it could be someone else, but I don't care if it's Kellyanne Conway. Other groups that she worked for include Citizens United, that is an actual group, that's the one that the Supreme Court case was about, and the Koch-backed group Freedom Partners. So the guys who give tremendous donations to the Republican Party overall, now they could whisper in Kellyanne Conway's ear and say, this is what we, the billionaires, are interested in. So go ahead, carry our water. You just watched the video from the Young Turks. Did you know that there's a live 2-hour show every day, and that if you're a member of the Young Turks, you can get that on demand anytime you want without ads? Plus the post game just for members, plus Aggressive Progressives, plus Old School, plus so many other network shows. Go right now, tytnetwork.com/join.